to a state of limitation. I don't like to my but when it's about adding, I put a bill on the floor to extend the statute of limitation. The statute of limitation is a huge law in the fight against corruption. The statute of limitation, as it is right now, that law says 5 years pass, government prosecute somebody for crime. Once it is bailable, non-capital offense, the government, after 5 years, the government can prosecute you again.
That is also affecting the LCC currently.
Exactly. After 5 years, the government can prosecute you again, even if the evidence is raw in government hands. So let me break it down. Senator Dillon get 9 years. Then from the beginning of Senator Dillon time, he went just $2 million for government. Then he suppressed the information. After 5 years, the information is uncovered. The $2 million Dillon now using, you can see he now build horses, he get different property. The evidence is available. But because 5 years finish passing, government can do not know Dillon. So Dillon walking free. He get property that was sourced from cheating the public. So I put a bill on the floor. Let's amend this law to take it to 15 years, but with a meat in the amendment. And that amendment, the meat is the 15 years period for government to prosecute begins from the date of discovery of a crime. Now when the crime was committed. Breaking it down, Dillon 20 years old or 25 years old, and he committed a crime, especially corruption, economic related crime. He was 25 years old. He suppressed that information until he turned 60 years old. Then, bam! Evidence showed that when Dillon was 25 years old, he committed a crime. And the evidence is available to prosecute. The law I put on the floor says, the day they discovered the crime, the time I turned 60 years old, and they discovered that crime that I committed, the time I was 25 years old, prosecution starts from there. Right now, when you commit crime, after 5 years, you're working with the evidence, you're working all, you're smelling the cologne, oh, government can prosecute you. So the Senate passed my version, my amendment. Thanks to the Senate, we voted, we passed that law. It is before the House for concurrence. So that when we concur with that, it means people will say, they crime we are committing. They were 25 years old. Even if I turn 90 years old, the day they know about the crime, they will prosecute me. That will serve as deterrent from people committing no kind of economic crime against the country and other offenses on the person, like aggravated assault, like other non-capital offenses. To the judiciary. The judiciary is not helping. And let me be blunt on this microphone as a national leader. You can take somebody to court and the judiciary ignores the constitutional mandate that says every person taken to court must have impartial, speedy, and fair trial. Speedy. The government take Dillon to court for corruption. The government said, so let me give a clear instance. Delphine Bono, Gracia Ra, the asset recovery team, when seized small property asset, they say she got it by corruption means. They seize it, they take it from her. They just seize it to conclude investigation so that investigation proof that that thing here was taken by corruption means the government will now confiscate it and sell it for the resources to come back to government. The asset recovery went and packed Gracia Ra cars. Gracia Ra management ran to the Supreme Court and said, Supreme Court, the thing when they put them to the oil illegal, so stop them from doing it. They don't have the authority to do it. The Supreme Court put a stay order on Gracia Ra, on the asset recovery team. To To hear that stay order, the Supreme Court said, while we hear in the stay order to know whether you have authority to seize depot property, give it back to them until we conclude whether you have authority. The Supreme Court took 9 months to hear a rate of prohibition. After 9 months, the Supreme Court said, as a recovery team, you got authority to do what you're doing, continue doing what you're doing, but make sure every time you're doing it in keeping with the rule of law and due process. By the time asset recovery go back to Glacier Ride, they finish selling all the car. So he said, so the court is the fire incident at the temple at the Capitol building. They persecuting people. Every time the way the judge ruling one motion, the other party run after to the Supreme Court, then the Supreme Court post stay order on that case. Samuel Tueden case. They look at the government is not prosecuting, but the judiciary is not helping in the speedy fight against the fight against corruption because they delaying too much with the pre-trial motions and delaying the main trial. So while we are fighting to reform some of the laws that will bring us to speed and serve as a deterrent from people corrupting our system and depriving the public, the judiciary has a role to play, and we must call them up.
Okay. Senator Delon, the issue of the, I guess you've been following the issue of the iron ore tailings. You're so concerned about Grand Bassa County and following entire country. So the issue of the iron ore tailings, how far have you heard about it?
Well, the tailing is not for Grand Bassa County.
Okay.
It's for the country, the republic, through the government. But it's in Grand Bassa County, so Grand Bassa County has a stake over it as well. And I think the president of Liberia is using wisdom to constitute a committee to investigate the tailing thing, so that after the investigation, the appropriate action can be taken. Okay. So that the tailing noise in the county can calm down, because the tailing is not for any one person or one family. It's for the country, and deposited in this county, the county has a stake too, because money generated from that is supposed to impact the county. But when it appears that everybody fighting, and their own way over the tailing thing, it can be scary. You can't take money from any company that doesn't have a license to shape the tailing. You can't. To do that is outside the law. Anybody who does that, whether it is the caucus or whether it's majority of the caucus, whether it's the previous administration, it is outside the law. Only a mining company or a company that has license duly issued by the Ministry of Mines, and it is not challenged in court or not, you should deal with. But for anybody to deal with one company in the process of obtaining a mining license or a tailing and export license, it is simply wrong. So anybody who stands against it, put their feet down, that it should not happen, that person is right.
So as it stands, what do the people of Bacolin and of course Grand Bassa County stand as it relates to the tailing?
So thankfully, let me put it a simple way. And we're not paying rent for the tailing. Only thing, the longer it stays, then depreciate in value. But we're not paying rent. Now it has.
Our people are equal to work.
It has, exactly. So the president is intervening because it's a national issue. The president has constituted a team to investigate the tailing thing, and they should be reporting to him very soon, so that the appropriate action can be taken, so that Grand Bassa and the country can benefit from the deposit of the tailing in the country. When I leave from here, I got to send one AC here for Bezon, Radio Bezon. So you can be sweating like this. Well, if I would have to send one air conditioner for the station.
Okay, Chief. Yes, so definitely we have to go. So just take, because calls kept coming, take just 3 more calls, of course, get to Senator DeLong, then we'll call you a day. Good morning, this person. Yeah, good morning, let's hear you.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. Lawmaker. I did 2 years a Jinka.
I don't hear any.
He said, after 3 years, change car.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm happy to please don't say to look at the dressing. The second one, there's any position. So the position, any president guy is going, the justice minister. If he doesn't draft, all of them are drafting the same thing because that a particular training program, he made a country to go bad. Somebody.
Hello?
Well, I think it was harmonized. But
The lawmaker, all of them are drafting the same thing, stay here. I'm concerned.
Oh, okay. So you mean Senator DeLong in a time, instead of 9 years, why he say instead of 9 years, it should go 6 years. Yes, Senator DeLong.
Although you say you are taking 3 calls.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. They will
Okay.
definitely.
Next person, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, let's hear you quickly. How much time?
Good morning.
What's your name? Let's hear you.
Thank you, very Secretary Johnson, for on your
Let's hear you, Chief.
section. I have 2 concerns. One has to do with I appreciate the work of the government in terms of the education sector. They are trying their best. When I look at the rural part, many students in the rural places cannot continue their education because the limitation of the state grade. When you go to the rural places, number 1, number 2, stage grade 2, 3, 4, go there. You see, they are limited. The most is to now grade. So now grade, they all of you have students. They are suffering educationally and education leader. The next one has to do with you now go to the MGA, you go to in Grand Bassa, the no year. Now with the legislation mandate in LW, it has than the MGA has, including Washington DC.
Okay. Good morning, this person. The last call. Yeah, good morning. Let's hear what's your name. Yeah, Papi, let's hear you.
Yeah, there are a few questions from our senator.
Yeah.
One, the senator, I think he owns the committee for for executive. And then the guy having 2 driving lessons now into Latino. The guy on company, producing lesson, driving lesson, and then transport, patient producing driving. For transport ministry project to the capital PD. It is there. It is there. They receive it.
Papi, get to the point. What you really want to say? Get to the point. We don't have much time.
So the point is, I'm asking my senator now, it is good for Nagoro to be having 2 driving lessons.
2 driving lessons. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I think we're not taking any more call. We're not taking any more call. So Senator DeLong, just respond. Yeah, so you can talk. Just.
I think the 2 key questions that came out.
First one, they tell you they have to do their first quarter.
The car, man.
Yeah, the car, your car, and then you tell you how to reduce your 6 years instead of 9 years.
So the tenure aspect, you know, the constitution is the law at the back of people, so only the people can change the law.
Okay.
Constitution, for anything to change in the constitution, like tenure, for president, for senator, for representative, it has to go through constitutional referendum. But thankfully, the former president pro tempore of the Senate, who is senator of Grand Creek County, Albert Chie, wrote a communication for us to review provisions of the constitution, including this tenure thing for president, senator, and representative. I know somebody who's listening now, especially my man from CDC, will say, President, we are brother, you voted against it. The team President, we are brother. It did not make sense at the time. There was no enough education in keeping with the mandate of the Constitution for people to know exactly what they were voting for. So Albert Chie has reintroduced those things, It's before us on the Judiciary Committee, and when we return, this 2026 will be some of the things we'll review for tenure. For me, I want president to be 4 years, representative 4 years, senators 6 years, like it is in most of the democratic countries. When it comes to the car issue, look, my brother, it is not about appearing to be injured because I'm not near no injury, but I got conscience. You hear some people say, oh, they don't quit to say sorry. I prefer to say sorry than walking with guilt or wrongdoing or bad doing. Sorry, don't do it again. Fine. Because we used to public official having that courage to look at the citizens who implore us to say, I wrong you. You think I did when I read, I should not have done it. We used to it. So, the car issue, I raised this thing 3 years ago. Let's change the law to increase the number of years on the car issue. But let me have a conversation about the car issue in Liberia with lawmakers. In a House of Representatives,
So why you laugh?
I'm laughing because I really want to have a conversation about it.
Okay.
So because of that, we will go up to 11 o'clock and we'll end the show. Because it's serious. Sometimes it's good for this kind of public information. Long before, but first thing, I want to put it as a challenge. So somebody can prove me wrong. Does that mean that I believe that I'm 100% right? Everywhere around the world, they provide transportation allowance for elected officials. They don't get in car. There are some places where they purchase cars. But there are many places around the world where they provide transportation allowance for lawmakers. Some people they want to take train, some people want to take keke, some people want to take they just provide your transportation allowance monthly in cash. It used to happen in Liberia. They used to give lawmakers, I think 1,800, and then they carried to 2,500 monthly. It was in the budget. They called it transportation reimbursement allowance. So when you put that 2,500 every month, times 12 months in a year, that's about $30,000 or $36,000 if my math is correct. Every year. Every year. In 2015, 2016, thereby, I made a post that if I were an elected official and they gave me that kind of transportation allowance opportunity, I would buy a used car. That is statement where the post said, oh, they don't say you will never ride 45,000 car, you ain't there, you contradicting. When you gave me the transportation allowance money, I need a fancy car, but government policy changed by 2016, 2017, I think 2016, to say we will no longer give lawmakers the transportation reimbursement allowance. What we do, so let's do the math. 2,500 every month. Times 12 months, how much?
That should be 35,000.
And that's 35,000? Okay. Give lawmakers the transportation allowance. Don't buy a car. And see how much the government will spend in 3 years.
Close to 105,000.
Close to 100 something thousand. So the government and our international partners gave the lawmakers a car for 3 years. Cut the money and to save the country half of what they would have gotten in 3 years if you were giving them the transportation allowance. Like it is everywhere around the world. So if every year is 30-some more thousand, 3 years will be 90,000 plus. But because of the understanding reached at the time, so they cut it down. So instead of 90,000 in 3 years, the government is spending 45,000 in 3 years. That's why the lawmaker they can carry the car after 3 years, because it's actually the transportation reimbursement allowance that is provided to lawmakers almost anywhere in the world, unless somebody can prove me wrong. They don't buy cars, but they give transportation allowance to lawmakers. almost everywhere in the world. In Liberia, either because of lack of education or because of the politics, we clock our minds. So, but still at that, I said, I made a policy statement in the Senate. Because we have a tradition when you come from break, you go back, everybody speak for 3-4 minutes and give their experience with their constituents and what their vision for the next legislative agenda will be. So 3 years ago, the video is there, all the media people were there. I was not doing it because camera in for me. I said it's time for us to review the policy on the car business. Let's extend it to 5 years per car or 6 years. They draw back on that is members of the House don't agree, because if you give him 1 car for 6 years, that means representative will get 1 car in 6 years. They want 2 cars in 6 years. That's how the 3 years came about, because members of the House back then during early time rejected that 5 years or 6 years per car. They say if you do 6 years per car, that means we the representative will get only 1 car. The senator may get 2 cars because he got 9 years. You understand? The same way with the threshold thing. As we close, the same way with, so my brother, look, the same way with the salary thing, the same way with the car issue. 1 car, 5 years, I get problem with it. You call on my colleague there to join me and let's see what happens. Call on my Joe, call on all the, and I'm specific about the lawmakers of Grand Bassa County because I'm in Grand Bassa County. If I'm in Nima, I will be specific. And for the lawmakers in Nima, I will be calling to people of Nima County to call on the lawmakers. These are constructive calls to rally the people. But interestingly, the people don't rally themselves for what should benefit them.
So, Senator,
Their country was noisy, including Grand Bassa County. Who will be speaker? Who will not speaker? Why they want one move? Why they want that? Whole day the citizens were concerned about that. Some got new speaker. Why didn't the citizens not benefit? The thing that's supposed to benefit them, I was demanding the labor minister here. Don't give work permit for jobs that Liberians are qualified to do and available. How can you bring somebody from outside the country to come do welding, plumbing, carpentry things, electrical work? How can you bring somebody from outside the country to come be accountant, to come be a driver? How? Is that possible? We got Liberians here qualified. How many Liberians, including civil society groupings, you saw buttressing that effort? No, the thing that ain't concern Liberians, they will not benefit them. That the thing they can make for topical issue, and I got to state it.
So, Senator Delon, with all of these calls, is the House still rotting?
The Senate?
Yeah,
The
both houses.
The Senate is not as the Senate not rotting like before. The Senate was rotting. Oh look, listen to me. We must muster even more spine. But this Senate has some spine. The president of Liberia that will support our own government, the president brought people to occupy 10 new positions. The Senate led by Nyomdi Kanga Lawrence. With all of us on the rescue mission, we said no, Mr. President. You will have legal vacancy in the tenure position before we confirm or even consider confirmation hearing for any of your nominees. That's fine. The president of Liberia, Joseph Nima Boaga, who I so love and adore, respect and support with my being, he sent $40 million budget in February of 2024 to start his government. I looked in the budget, there were $5 million there for domestic debt payment. I asked Boima Kamara, who was Minister of Finance at the time, where's the domestic debt list? I used to vote against George Weah's budget because they were paying debt. Nobody knew who they were paying $84 million almost every year. Where's the domestic debt list for the $5 million? Boima Kamara could not show me domestic debt list. I voted no. That's fine. That's fine. The Senate may not be where we want the Senate to be, but this Senate got balls. But because you operating with something that is constructive, you want us to show that we get spine by rejecting Ivanhoe? How convenient will come to the country? You want us to show that we get spine by by denying some positives of the government, like supporting LEC to expand to Grand Bassa County and other places to prove that we get spanned. You get spanned when you stand up to do the right thing. The Senate must develop even more span, but of course we are not spineless like before.
Okay, I think with that, Emmanuel, we can just conclude.
Yeah.
So, but before we go, Senator DeLong, yes, you have to take a break. Yes, we're going not easy. And of course, yes, we have to go. I'm going to have to sponsor over this music. Big J, one people, one Liberia. We are all one people, one Grand Bassa County, one destiny. So, of course, let me go back to Senator DeLong for a parting comment.
Thank you. Yeah, now we are parting comment.
Yes, Senator DeLong.
We are parting comment. But, gentlemen, thank you for the interview. ABJ and our radio station there in compound number 1 is also relaying.
Okay.
Yeah. And those of you on the social media, I want to say thank you. I'm always home, and I will continue to come home. I'm part of this county. I'm a proud son of this county, and I must state on the record that I'm extremely proud of the leadership of Nyambli Kanga Lawrence over the Liberian Senate. You have men and women from various counties placing their and reposing their trust and confidence in a daughter of Grand Bassa County. It should be a huge deal and huge pride for us. So notwithstanding being Senator of Montserrat County, knowing my roots of Grand Bassa County, that is why I support Nyambli Kanga Lawrence as the leader of the Senate and then as the leader of my party.
It is important to note that this historic outcome has been achieved despite significant institutional and operational constraints, including limited financial and resource capacity available to the authority. The LRA has had to do more with less, which makes today's achievement particularly significant. That is why, as Commissioner General, I thank the Almighty for His grace in granting us the wherewithal and His divine guidance in achieving this historic milestone. I must extend my deepest appreciation to the men and women of the LRA, whose professionalism, sacrifice, long hours, and commitment to national duty made this milestone possible. From our headquarters to the ports, borders, counties, and field offices across the country, LRA staff have demonstrated resilience, integrity, and dedication in service to Liberia. They are Liberia's unsung heroes. I also wish to sincerely thank our colleagues across government and partner institutions who play vital roles in revenue generation and enforcement, including officers and teams at ports of entry, custom ports, line ministries, agencies, and commissions, whose collaboration continued to strengthen Liberia's revenue ecosystem. Domestic revenue mobilization is a collective national responsibility, and we appreciate all those who have significantly contributed to the achievement of this historic milestone. As we look ahead, the government of Liberia has set for 2026 a record domestic revenue target of $1.176 billion. We have equally noted concerns about the scale of this target and the capacity required to achieve it, particularly given prevailing global and domestic economic conditions. However, I wish to emphasize that at the LRA, we remain focused on our institutional mandate. We are not political actors, we are servants of the state. Our responsibility is to remain professional, evidence-based, and result-oriented, delivering on national objectives through sustained effort rather than public debate. We will deliver. To support the achievement of the 2026 target, the LRA will invest in and intensify its reform agenda. We will expand digital transformation initiatives across tax administration, enhance automation, strengthen data-driven compliance management, and continue modernizing taxpayer services. In addition, the authority will advance preparations for the introduction and effective administration of value-added tax, alongside expanded nationwide taxpayer education and awareness campaigns to ensure understanding, compliance, and inclusivity across all sectors of the economy. We thank the national government for its continued support and call for that support to be sustained. Our employees work nearly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, often under demanding conditions, to meet national revenue targets. Their welfare, motivation, and institutional support are essential as we pursue increasingly ambitious national revenue goals. Most importantly, I extend the gratitude of the government of Liberia to all compliant taxpayers, individuals and businesses alike, who continue to honor their civic responsibility. We recognize the economic pressures facing households and enterprises, and we remain committed to administering the tax system fairly, transparently, and with sensitivity to prevailing conditions. I use this occasion to encourage those not yet fully integrated into the tax system, particularly within the informal sector, to join this national effort. Broadening the tax base remains essential to reducing pressure on compliant taxpayers and ensuring sustainable national development. The 2026 target is substantial and demanding. However, just as complex national reforms require patience, planning, and persistence, we are confident that through discipline, institutional reforms, and collective commitment, Liberia can meet this challenge. I therefore reaffirm a call for partnership among public institutions, the private sector, development partners, and citizens to sustain the progress achieved and to support Liberia's journey towards fiscal self-reliance. On behalf of the LRA, I reaffirm our commitment to fairness, integrity, transparency, and excellence in revenue administration. And I thank the people, the Liberian people, and our international partners for their cooperation and trust. Liberia can deliver, and together we will. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, you've heard the Commissioner General speaking and giving update about our performance. We will now offer you the opportunity to ask some questions that might be lingering on your mind. So what you do is that you raise your hand. I will recognize you. You will identify yourself and ask your question. I beg to the point. Yep.
So thank you, Mr. CG. My name is Yeke Kwaita and I report for the Heritage newspaper. Mr. CG, let me say thank you. I participated in RA task reporting training in Kakata and I learned a lot from there. And now that the government of Liberia has proposed a 1.2 million budget, and
Billion.
Yeah, billion budget, thank you. I asked the same question in Kakata and it was, what are the strategies the LRA are going to use that you look at? For me, I'm paying rent in my house. What are the strategies? People are paying rent in house and the houses are not paying taxes. They petty traders, they are selling along the road, they are getting money out there. What is the strategy LRA is going to use to take lawful revenue from these people?
Okay. So we should do it as we go, or we'll take a number?
You want to take one or two, or what? It's just choices, yes.
Okay, we can answer as we go. Thank you. This is a very important question, and it's good that you ask it. And clearly, from the question you asked, you are indeed associating with LRA and beginning to get clear understanding of some of the challenges and what we need to do as a country. But the point you raised about real estate is actually one of those places, one of the areas that we intend to expand in. We will achieve, our intention is to achieve this new milestone without necessarily increasing the tax burden on individuals. But we need to expand the revenue base. And those real estate owners who are not paying real estate, we want to go after them. We want to make sure we work with them so that they can become compliant. those of you who are paying rent, the law requires that you are supposed to withhold 10% of that rent and remit to LRA. So again, we are going to be ensuring that we educate people. That's why you heard in my statement that one of the things we're going to be doing is public awareness. Because for instance, just as an example, if you take a property, I think that costs around 25,000 or 50,000, I think the real estate tax should be around $25 or $30 or something. So if people know that the real estate tax is really not that high, people can really work to be able to do it. Most times people are not compliant because they're not too aware of what needs to be done. I mean, you just mentioned that you're paying rent. I'm not even sure you're aware that that rent you're paying, you're supposed to withhold 10% for the government. So we'll create the awareness so that people can be aware. We'll educate people. Hopefully that will induce compliance. That's one of the things we'll do in the case of real estate and other segments of the tax ecosystem. What we'll also do, like I mentioned, is we want to leverage technology. You know, we've already started doing that. We want to expand on that. For instance, we are doing something called, we are introducing something called e-invoicing, electronic invoicing. By that, we are working with businesses so that they can have electronic fiscal devices at their premises. In fact, we're using software solution. So even somebody with a good cell phone that can go online, or tablet, or their own laptop, they don't have to invest in any new device. They can use those very same things, just download our system on it, and every sale they make, you know how when you go to the supermarket, when you're checking out, there's a POS that they ring you through. For those kinds of systems, we will hook them up with the LRA system. So as the sales are made, we will get that information in real time. One of the problems we have in our revenue system is that the system is self-declaration based. What that means is that the business person will do their business the whole period, and then they come to LRA and do something we call filing. In other words, declare to LRA that, oh, this period I'm reporting for, this is the amount of money I made. Now, clearly, you know, people being what they are, you know, I mean, who thinks that people will actually come and tell us, say, honestly, this year, then the period I made 200,000. You know, if the person made 200,000, likely what it will declare in the system at 50,000, you know, if at all. But if we put in this electronic system now, we will be getting the sales information in real time. So the problems of under declaration will start. So some of the leakages that we've been experiencing, we will be able to get that. We are also working on other technologies that we are rolling out our existing revenue system, tax revenue management system. It's called LITAS. In many of our locations around the country, because of internet connectivity challenges, we have not rolled out in those places. At our border points across the country, because again of internet connectivity, our custom system is called Asakuda. Those systems are not rolled out in those remote places. We are beginning to roll out now because we managed to get Starlink devices, and we started the process, you know, since this late last year, and we are still continuing. So we intend to expand that so that the automated systems can be present in those places and people don't have to handle those systems manually. We are also working on improving efficiency at the port. So we are about 8-9 months away from completing a destination inspection facility at the port. What that will do, right now we can inspect about 3 or 4 containers at a time. That will give us the capacity to inspect about 30 containers at a time. In fact, we will have scanners that we don't have to open the containers to know what's inside. They will be loaded on the truck will go into the scanner, and then our officers will be able to see on the screen. Similar to those of you who have traveled, you see the baggage scanners at the airport, the bags remain closed, and as the baggage passes through the scanner, you see that the officers can be able to tell the kind of things that are in there. So similar technology is what will be deployed at the Freeport before the end of next year. Then we will also do automation at the oil and gas terminal at PRC. All the terminals will be automated. Okay, so that when people who have fuel in the different storage tanks are lifting, we will be able to get those information in real time. So we think that if we deploy those technologies, we're knocking on wood, we might be able to exceed our next year target as well, which is our internal objective here at the LRA.
Okay, thank you. So this time around we'll take 3 questions. You want to list the questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, your name and your institution.
Good morning, Mr. DG. This is David Manger
And
from the Liberian Investigator.
okay.
Yes, around the same real estate, but this one in a different position. I recall the president giving a mandate that public officials, especially those in senior positions, should, comply with their real estate tax. But since then, it appears that the LRA is largely silent, if I will put it that way, because we've not gotten any information as to whether they are complying with this mandate. What do you have to tell the public since then?
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. My name is Gerald Koyinen, Front Page Africa. Because CJ, the LRA continued to ask the government, especially major stakeholders, to apportion 5% of the national budget. Could you please give us an update on your negotiation with these relevant institutions?
And then the last one for now.
Thank you. My name is Harris Billy, and I report for Punch FM and TV. I listened when you talked about expansion, and it brings me to a point that sometimes of this year, I'm saying precisely the beginning of this year, when you will appear before the legislature, I can recall during that conversation, you stressed the need for increment in terms of the staff. If I could recall, you said at least additional 300 persons could be needed. Sometimes in September, you will go on to the Revenue Authority to dismiss about 40 or more staffs for actions that the authority deemed justifiable. Yet and still, you've been able to reach your revenue target and exceed the target. Is there a need for increment in the number of staff now that you are reducing 40 persons and still meeting the target? Should there be a need for increment in the number of staff you have?
Thank you. This is a very, I like this question. Okay, but let me start from the order in which it was asked. The first question was about the presidential mandate and the outcome and the results of that exercise. And this was from the Liberian Investigator. Yes, the president did issue the mandate, and LRA 5, this was based on LRA's recommendation. And I must say that we have had a very good turnout from public officials in coming to declare make the payments on the outstanding payments on the real estate. We are currently working with the CSA to be able to collate the results. Because you see, when people come to pay to us, they come with a tax ID number and their property ID numbers for those that already have existing property. There is no way we can link them to positions in government because we don't have that database. So CSA has that database. So what we've done, part of the mandate of the presidential order was that they should get, each person who clears should get a tax clearance from LRA and deliver it to CSA. So CSA now is collecting all those tax clearances that they have gotten, and then that will give us a space now to be able to map. As you give your tax clearance to CSA, then CSA will collect your tax ID number. And then CSA will feed it back to us, and then we'll be able to, Kahine was owing this much, and this is what he paid. No, we will not be able to do that. What we will do is that we'll tell you, say, of the X amount of public officials, this is the total amount they were obligated to pay. This is how much has been collected. This is the portion that has been stipulated and that we're working. So we'll not be able to give you specific information on specific individual taxpayers, but we'll come up with a report. So we are waiting CSA. People, that process is still ongoing because some people came earlier and some of them are still made stipulation, they're paying. So as they pay, we update, they go and update CSA. CSA is compiling that data. They will work with our real estate tax division, and then we'll be able to provide the information, the statistics of the responsiveness. We have also even initiated work with Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission because everyone declared an asset to the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. So once we get a list, we want to triangulate with them to see whether we can ascertain as to whether the taxes paid by these public officials are commensurate with the properties that they have declared. And if we notice any And normally we'll call them back in to do the adjustment, and then we'll report appropriately to the presidency. You may not see that in a public report because, once again, these are taxpayer information, and there's an extent to which we can be able to divulge specific taxpayer information. But our report will be coming out in due time. The next one was on Front Page Africa regarding our call for 5% allocation. Okay, we're still on the process. The short answer is that we're still in the process. Again, we engage with the two houses. We are also engaging with the presidency, and we seem to be getting positive signal now. There's some traction. Unfortunately, the traction came at a time when the lower house are already going on vacation. So the assurance we've gotten is that we might be able to get some positive results in 2026, first quarter of 2026. That is our target. Now, and this is important for the public to get this, and just to correct, the 5% we're asking for is not for the national budget. It's for the domestic revenue that we collect, because not all of the national budget has revenue that we collect. Some of the revenues are external. So those ones, we're not saying give us 5% of that. We are saying the one we are able to achieve, give us 5% of that so that it can be our operating budget. And the reason for that is, in response to the first question, I have mentioned that there are a lot of technologies we need to invest in. These things cost a lot. Our operations are really constrained, like I mentioned in my statement. What this will do is give us adequate resources for us to be able to invest more in those things that will cause us to be more efficient. As it is right now, because of the inefficiencies, we are actually still not getting all the revenue we're supposed to be getting. Because, for instance, and this will border on the last question, we're supposed to man our borders along with immigration. Just to tell you the magnitude of our challenge, immigration has a force of more than 3,000 strong. And assuming that we're supposed to pair with them one-on-one at the different border points, our strength, our custom strength is just 300. So we have 300 compared to immigration that has more than 3,000, So you see how the shortage is. So what that means is that along our porous borders, there are so many different crossing points that we don't have custom officers at. And at each of those border points, there's a likelihood that there may be commodities that are coming in that people are supposed to pay, import duty and other levies on, but they're not paying. So those are examples of some of the things, that we are losing. Some of our processes are still manual, especially like in the interior and other places. If we don't automate those things, it's difficult. I mean, we rely on people to write physical receipts and all of that, and either they can make mistakes, or if the president decide that they would engage in other unscrupulous things, then it's depriving the country of the revenue. So there's greater efficiency. Our back office internally, like the last question a poser mentioned, we are severely short-staffed. We're severely short-staffed. And if we had the adequate staff, we'll be able to conduct our audits and other reviews. This thing I talked about earlier, the electronic fiscal devices that we're going to roll out, this is thing that we need to do massive engagement and go to everybody who's providing service or selling commodity. But if we don't have the resources, then we got to bring in 300, we'll do 300 first, then we will struggle, go do another 500. Whereas if we have the resources, we can do all of these things at one time. And the benefits that come with that will just be more revenue. Now, going to the last question. So, and I like the way he framed it, because he frames it as a paradox. You short by 300 staff, at least 300. It's actually more than 300. But you say you short by 300. You went ahead and dismissed, 46 people. So if we accumulate that, then you're talking about almost 360 people you short by, minimum. But still, you are able to achieve your target. So the obvious question is, do you really need additional people? Because without the additional people, you can achieve your target. And my response to that is, this year, we've collected so far 818 million, and we are celebrating. If we had that many staff, if we had the resources, by now we should be talking about collecting billions. By next year, our collection target should be far higher than that. This is the point we're making. So yes, we're happy with the achievement. We're doing the best we can with the limited resources that we have.
But if we have the resources we need, there's quite a lot more we can collect. And you know, there's one picture that we need to be clear about. The AAID, the costing of an AID, requires at this point around 8.6 billion in annual revenue to fund the projects in the AAID. Up to for the past 2 years, we have not been able to cross 1 billion. It's only next year that hopefully we'll cross the 1 billion. And even that, we will be at 1.2 billion, assuming we collected all of the resources that we're supposed to collect, both domestic revenue and external resources. But even with that 1.2 billion, we are still $0.4 billion short of what we need to raise annually to be able to implement all of the objectives in a AAID. So, look, guys, this is about our country. What we are saying as the revenue collectors is that we are able to collect more than that $1.6 billion per year. But we need the resources, because without those resources, there are places that money exists. He mentioned about real estate. In fact, that's the example that actually resonates with all of us, because you either own a property or you live in some other property and you pay rent. Even if you're not paying rent, you know that that person property you live in, the person is supposed to pay taxes. Taxes are supposed to be paid on the real estate infrastructure itself. Taxes are supposed to be paid on the rent that tenants pay. Now, those of us who live in houses, and are paying rent, how many of us actually are withholding? Again, without investment in LRA, we will not have the capacity to be able to collect all of this revenue. And the money that we're losing, the money the country is losing. Imagine if we are able to collect all of that resources, or even 90% of that resources. You think we'll be talking about 1.2 billion? We'll be talking about upwards of $2 billion. And if we can raise 2 billion, just imagine what will happen. Assuming that our overhead remains the same as it is right now, around 600 million, our recurring expenditure. If we were to collect, say, 2.6 billion, it means that the 0.6 billion will take care of our recurring expenditure, salaries and other things. Then we have $2 billion to invest in infrastructure and service provision. In a space of about 2 to 3 years, Liberia will be a totally different country. And this is the case we've been trying to make all along. The potential for us to raise more money, for us to raise the more money, we need more resources, we need greater investments in LRA for us to be able to do that. So yes, the short answer to this question is that yes, we still do need it, because there's a lot more we can do, more than what we're currently doing if we are properly resourced.
Thank you, CG. We will take the last 3 questions. We'll come from you.
So, Mr. CG, let me say thank you. My name is David Yates, and I write for the Daily Observer newspaper. I got a few concerns, but I will go with this first. There are reports suggesting that the LRA has an internal performance-based incentives or bonus framework for staff when annual revenue targets are exceeded. Given that the LRA surpassed its revenue target last year and has reportedly done so again this year, can you clarify whether such a policy exists and whether it was activated following last year's performance? If not, what factor prevented its implementations?
Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Last question? Yep.
Yeah, so my name is Chi Watson Riches, and I report for the Verity newspaper. I attended a workshop in Kakata, let's say Magibi, in Farmington Hotel. We talk about transitioning from the GST to that of the VAT. How far are we with that?
Okay. You said which
Verity.
Verity newspaper.
Any other question? You sure you have a second one? Okay, then get out the second one.
So, just to add up to that question, has the LRA assessed the impact of its revenue draft on ease of doing business in Liberia?
Come again?
Has the LRA assessed the impact of its revenue draft on the ease of doing business in Liberia?
Oh, our revenue drive.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so CJ, I think there's no more questions. You answer those and call your day.
Okay, thank you again for these very good questions. So let's start with the order in which The first one was on performance bonus.
Yes.
Yeah, my brother, I hope you can help us, to really help us push this. The first part of your question is whether indeed that policy exists. Actually, it's even more than a policy. It's a law. It's in the LRA Act. That every time LRA exceeds its performance, its domestic revenue target, that the minister is under obligation to allocate an incentive. That's how the law calls it. But this must be approved by the legislature. We exceeded our target last year by about $10 million. So, and we wrote the Minister of Finance that we have done this feat. So can you please, we've been working, the Ministry of Finance, we've elevated this to the legislature, up to now, nothing has been done. This year again, when we exceeded this target, I think it was on Christmas Eve, when we was it the 23rd or the 24th?
24th.
It was the 24th. It was Christmas Eve when we exceeded this current target. At that time, we were at 808 million. As soon as we exceeded, we went straight to 808. I wrote the minister a letter right away. And that letter was asking for incentive as per the law for both last year and this year. The minister himself called back to tell me that given our performance, he thinks that the LRA is really deserving of what the law says, and he's awaiting the president's return from FOIA, and he will engage with the president to provide that. This is becoming a difficulty for me as a leader in LRA, because as somebody mentioned as a context of his question, in September of this year, we dismissed 46 people for bad behavior. Now, when you penalize people for bad behavior, and the law says that the same law that says you should penalize them when they indulge in bad behavior, the law also says that you should compensate them for good performance. But then we are not able to do it. So for me, it's a difficulty. And we have a group chat. LRA has a group chat where staff express themselves. And because it's a free space, people speak out freely. I read every single comment. And the comments, staff keep asking for it. CG, what is the status? I've run out of things to update people. Because we have given our assurance that we will do everything by the books. We'll do everything according to the rules. Now we've done our part. And we really want to challenge the government to make those incentives available. And what we are asking for, we're not asking for the world as an incentive to the staff. We are saying just give 1 month bonus, 1 month salary as the bonus. That's what we're asking for. And our 1 month salary, our 1 month payroll is around 1.1 million. So if you take our overperformance last year of about 10 million, take out 1.1 million from that amount and give it to the staff. Let's appreciate the people for the hard work. This year, we've done 817. We're about 14 million, 13 point something million, already above target. Again, we're not saying give us a percentage of that. We say check your 1 month salary. So we can give the staff in appreciation. So we hope all of you can help us, to raise, the alarm bells so that the appropriate authorities, both the Ministry of Finance and the legislature, can do their best to provide this. It's becoming a difficulty for my leadership here, and you can't continue to push people this hard. I mean, we've given very little, and with very little, we're doing so much more. Look, even before the end of the year, we've exceeded our revenue target by almost 14 million. And this is going to grow because the collections we're doing for today, the rest of today is not even included. The one we'll do tomorrow, all the way up to Wednesday, is not even included. Then we will continue to collect, and reconciliation will have to be done. There's some revenues that will be on hand. We got to process in the system. Those ones are not. By the time we reach the end of March, that's when we'll be able to give you the true number for this year. This is how the system works. And believe me, by that time, it probably will be like 820 something or 830 something million that we would have collected. Now, if you push people like that in very constrained environment, these are people who have worked. When I say they've worked 24 hours, I actually mean they've worked 24 hours. As we speak, we have a team sequestered, out of a place that, for security reasons, I can't divulge to you. They were sequestered, I think it was on the 23rd of December.
23rd.
From the 23rd of December. And they will be sequestered until next year. So the people working through the Christmas holidays. Can you imagine that?
Yesterday, you know, I was on the line with my team, you know, Alaji. We worked yesterday. In fact, we don't even have holiday. We don't have Saturday. We're working all the time. You know, the issues are observed. I was so concerned. They were suggesting that, Chief, maybe we should meet at the office quickly and be able to resolve it. But we managed to resolve it while coming to the office. So you're pushing people like this, and you're seeing the result. You know, I really hope that the authorities who are concerned and supposed to make this happen should be able to do this. They're getting to a point now, a pinpoint that is really totally unbearable. You know, it's not fair to the staff. It's not fair to all of us at LRA. We've done our part, and the government is on an obligation to make real. And this is not a favor we're asking for. The law says it. You know, let's implement the law. This is what good governance is all about.
So just a follow-up.
Oh, well, wait, let me answer the other one in first. Let me answer the other one in first. Okay, so now let's just do your second question before we go to the question on VAT. Now you ask about our revenue drive on the ease of doing business. Okay, well, I really don't see the point. You know, I don't see the contention. No, I mean, I don't see the conflict. Because as a civic person, every business person, every business establishment, everybody doing business, you're under obligation to pay your legitimate taxes. And what LRA comes after are legitimate taxes. You're supposed to pay those taxes on time. And that is what we're doing. In fact, what we're working on is, and this is what this next year, we're going to engage heavily on public engagement. That's why we keep working with all of you in the media, because when it comes to public engagement, you are the frontliners. We want to enhance voluntary compliance. We want people on their own to come and say, look, I did this business, or I was able to acquire this additional income. Let me pay my civic responsibility. So it's a civic responsibility. Our part is just to ensure that we collect it and we do so efficiently. Where there could be a bit of a pressure on those who are in the tax net is that because the tax base is not broadened. And that's why we want to work to broaden the tax base. So, for instance, if somebody is doing Yana business, small business, you know Yana, right? Yeah, you're doing Yana business, but you're not paying tax. But the person who's paying tax in a store, you're selling the same thing on the sidewalk that they're selling. But if you're not paying tax, then there's a level of unfairness in the system right there. Because then this person is essentially the one paying the tax, and you are riding on that. So this is where we need the resources now to be able to ensure that those who are not in the tax net can be brought into the tax net. That we can have systems in place that will be able to onboard all these people so that everybody pay their fair share and that nobody is being left out. And that way we can be able to increase the revenue without necessarily imposing persistent burden on particular groups of people. On the last one, on the VAT, yes, we have updated you that we're rolling out VAT. The law was passed last year. The government has decided, being the only ECOWAS country that is not implementing VAT, Liberia has decided that we'll implement VAT from January 2027. So since the law was passed, and even before it was passed up to now, we've been working, making preparations. So we've been engaging, treating people, different stakeholders. We started first with training our own tax collectors, Ministry of Finance policy folks. We've done the training for tax practitioners, for custom brokers. So eventually we'll even be calling you people in the media, to educate you. Have we not already done that? Have we done the VAT training?
No.
Okay. So we will be calling on all of you because the entire ecosystem needs to be trained to this new thing before 2027. So this year is going to be very intense for us as we've continued to do. So we are in progress for that, and we hope that by January 1, 2027, the VAT administration will be introduced. Yes, you say you had a follow-up.
Yeah,
Can we make that essential?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The follow-up question is actually on the performance base. Yeah, like we explained in detail, but for me, I'm kind of looking at whether and you are appealing to the relevant agency to come in to implement that. But look at the potential risks, whether it has anything sustaining the revenue performance base.
It does. There's a high risk actually. There's a very high risk because the major resource that we have in LRA is our staff. That's our first and foremost. Without the staff, LRA will not be able to do anything. Now, if you recognize that fact, then it's important for you to hold this, valuable resource. I mean, in Liberian parlance, like chicken egg, you gotta hold them delicately. Now, what this does is that it demoralizes, it discourages, and any worker who is demoralized and discouraged, their productivity is going to dwindle. We don't want that to happen. We've been encouraging them and telling the staff that we're doing everything in our powers to make sure that the requisite authorities can be able to do this, but we hope that it can be done sooner rather than later. Because what it will do is that it will reinvigorate the energy. It will serve as an impetus. And this is what we want. Because next year, 1.2 or 1.1 something domestic revenue, we actually want to exceed that. We want to exceed that. But to be able to exceed that, the people who are doing the work have to be motivated. So this is a motivation. Without it, it will demoralize people. People will feel that they're not being appreciated, which is the kind of sentiments we are reading in our group chat that I told you about before. So it is really very important. It's a very high risk factor that needs to be mitigated very urgently. I get one question for you now. Yeah, I see right here. Your spouse works with LRA?
No.
Because the way you pushing the thing like this, you get some kind of benefit coming.
Yeah. Okay, let's take the final. We have to give you the benefit.
How prepared is LRA when it comes to economic shocks while maintaining revenue performance?
Well, the thing is that economic shocks, some of them are exogenous. And you will notice that we've actually, this year in particular, we've actually lived through a lot of shocks. You saw the decisions that came from Washington, D.C. The EU took some decisions. Recently, in fact, the Swedish government announced another decision, all of that. These are all shocks that impact the economy. And so things get difficult in the economy, and endogenous, but be able to bring on who are currently not on board. And hopefully that will even out and we'll be able to meet our target. Yeah, let's take one from her, just for gender consideration.
For Jordan Koto, and I work with the Nigerian News Agency. So you kept exceeding your target for the past 2 years now. Yeah. So what strategies have you been putting in to reach this milestone?
Somebody asked me that same question before, and I told the person, say, medicine again. Yeah, no, but that was just a joke. It's not medicine. It's just professionalism of the staff. It's the dedication of the staff, really. Because in terms of resources, we haven't been getting the resources. We really haven't been getting the resources. Last year, our budget was 18 point something million. We got an additional 500,000, which carried to about 19.1 or 0.2 million. That's what we got. In the 2026 budget, what was proposed by the Ministry of Finance, we had requested 39 million. What is actually was in the budget, I've not seen what was eventually passed, was 26 million. It still is short, far shorter than what we desire. But despite these low constraints, despite the low funding, we are still able to achieve our target. It's just because the staff have remained steadfast, dedicated, and some of the technologies that we are deploying so far. And this is why it's so very important. With the level of dedication, these are people who work, very long hours in a day. Sometimes when I leave my office around 10, 11 in the night, I gotta be telling some of the staff, y'all go home. Y'all pack up and go home. And these are young people, So it is that dedication immense. They work so very hard. And if the law says that they will get small thing, and what we're asking for, we should even be saying give a percentage of that money. Even if we requested for 10% of the money and the overages, it will be far more than what we are asking for. But we're saying no, let's be reasonable because we need to continue to provide social services. Development needs to go on. We can't just raise all the extra money and we take everything ourselves. So no, we're saying just give 1 month's salary, and I hope the people can really listen to that and be able to provide this, for all of our people.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, CG.